Hi all, and welcome back to a new video on the channel. This is going to be part 2 of the Cheltenham preview series and covering day 2 and the Wednesday card. Again, we're going to look through the 5 main races, which I believe are the Ballymore, the RSA, the Cheltenham Chase, the Cross Country and the Champion Bumper, leaving out obviously the Coral Cup and the Fred Winter, which will be in the handicap video later on. There's a good selection of cards on the Wednesday. The Tuesday video seems to have gone down well. This will go out, I think, a few days later after that. So hopefully it can be met with the same level of enthusiasm. And perhaps if you want to comment and question my views or ask questions, just pop them down in the comments below. I'll make sure to answer. So without further ado, we'll get into it. And we will start off with the Ballymore Novice Hurdle, formerly the Neptune. Over 2 miles and 5 furlongs, grade 1 novice hurdle, and it does look Sam Crow's to lose. Sam Crow the favourite here, the Irish banker the meeting apparently, at 4 to 6. He's been declared that he's going to run in this. I don't think he's going to swerve because I don't think they want him to run against Getterbird, and there's no chance he's running in the 3 miler because they bottomed out Death Duty trying to do that last year. So this does seem the ideal race for him, and to be honest, based on what he's done, you can't say that he won't win it. Like, he's justifiably the banker. That being said, I don't think perhaps he's quite as good as people are making out just at the moment. I think he'll be a better chaser in time, if I'm being honest. I think that the Deloitte Novice Hurdle was run at a very slow pace. He quickened nicely, but he should have won it how he did. You know, there wasn't really much to it, I don't think. I think he really, if he was to confirm or even kind of live up to half the hype, he had to win like that in that race. That being said, I do think this race will be made for him. And to be honest, there's not much looking past at 4 to 6. In terms of the opposition, like again, I've got my phone here with odds and the opposition. There's not much at kind of any good price. And you do look through the top of the market. And the majority of them I don't think are going to run. On the blind side will probably be his his biggest challenger for Nicky Henderson. Good horse, has done nothing wrong. I thought I was actually over in Cheltenham when he won to Momella and Poetic Rhythm, I think, in a grade 2 novice hurdle. And he won very well that day, but he took an age to get going, and that was over 2.5. So I thought he was an Albert Bartlett horse through and through. But his latest start, I think, which was at Ascot, he won really nicely, and that's what's convinced them to run at this 2.5 rather than the 3 miles, which is a fair point. Next destination, I'm not sure where he's going. I personally think they're going to run him over 3 miles, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's here. But like, Getterbird's not going to run, he's running the Supreme. Kalashnikov's not going to run if the Cap Fish isn't. Duke de Geneva, I still struggle to pronounce his name. I know I mentioned him in the Supreme video. If he does run in the Neptune, whatever race, I think he's worth a small each-way bet. He ran a nice race behind Sam Crow last time, finishing nicely, was beaten 5 lengths in the end. He's not, you know, based on that form, he can't reverse it, but, you know, he's got a good each-way shade, and at the moment he's 14 to 1 in the Neptune market, 20 in the Supreme. Both of them are not bad each-way plays, and I do think he'll be shorter. When we know what race he'll run in, he'll be shorter for that race, if you get me. Apart from that, though, Somerville Boy, he's not going to run. I've got a few here. I've got for each way plays more, and one of them is Vision Day Flow at 25 to 1 for Colin Tizzard. Colin Tizzard's yard finally coming to the boil this year, having had a very sluggish season. And Vision Day Flow is one of those horses that's been very sluggish. Won a big bumper over in Ireland at the Cheltenham Festival last year, fetched a lot of money. I think it was 275 grand out of sales. And he's a very good horse, I think. I've always rated him. I thought he'd win that race that on the blind side won at Cheltenham, but he ran no race. And then he was beaten, I think, at Hereford in a maiden hurdle, and you're kind of thinking, this guy's a complete bust. But he went away, had his whinge done, and came back last week, I think, and won by 31 lengths in a listed novice hurdle. He's clearly back to the boil. I think this will be his likely target. I think they'll run him over 2.5. And I think at 25 to 1, I think he's got every chance there. I just think there's something there to him. You know, there's something that we haven't quite got yet, and I think he could show that off in the Neptune and perhaps run a much bigger race than his price would suggest. Also at 25 to 1 is the Nicky Henderson trained OK Corral. Now, obviously, because Nicky Henderson is on the blind side is much more likely to get placed behind Sam Crow than OK Corral. But that being said, that doesn't take away from the fact that OK Corral has been very good this season. He won 2 out of 3. He won nicely last time out at Kempton, having just been denied at Newbury. And you know what? I don't think it's bad form. Like, what's wrong with you? Who beat him last time? He's gone on again and won again for Nicky Henderson. I don't know whether he's quite good enough, but at 25 to 1, I do think he's slightly overpriced, and therefore it could be worth a small bit each way. We then move on to the 210, which is the RSA Chase. And I have a very strong view in this race because I am one of Monalee's biggest fans. Presenting Percy ran a very good race behind R Duke there in the Red Mills last Saturday. But that being said, Presenting Percy is a horse I just can't quite get a handle on. I think Monalee's a bit of a safer bet, if I'm being honest, at 7 to 2. I think he's a wonderful horse. He's usually a wonderful jumper. He's made one mistake in 3 runs over fences, and unfortunately that was a fall. But last time it showed no ill effects of it in the Flowgas Novice Chase, jumping them silly from the front. That race was stacked with depth. There was some of the best novice chasers over 2.5 and 3 miles going in that race, and he just kept fending them off, and in the end was going away at the end. I couldn't believe it. I was on him that day at around 10 to 3, 7 to 2. He's again 7 to 2 here. I think that's a cracking price. I'd take on Presenting Percy. I just have an inkling. I don't think Black Courton's good enough. I know he's been a fast improver at 8 to 1. I'm a big admirer of the horse, but I just can't see him winning the RSA. Album Photo, I don't know whether he'll run or not. Neither will Invitation Only. I don't know where they're going. Personally, I'd have both of them in the 2.5 mile race. Willoughby Court won't run. Mia Storm, not great. Shattered Love, I'm not convinced by. Like, Shattered Love won that 3 mile novice chase over Christmas that Monalee fell in. But you forget that Monalee fell, brought down Rathvinden, who was second favourite, and stopped Denaria Dezo Bow to a standstill, who was the third favourite. Like, it was a nothing race. He ended up outstaying Jury Duty, who's one of the most questionable characters in the game in terms of up here. And Bomb Papa. God knows where Bomb Papa's got his head around. Like, he doesn't have a clue what's going on. I think each way here, again, I'm going for a few English horses. As the each way shouts. I think Ballyoptic at 20 to 1 is probably a pretty good price. I like Ballyoptic. He lost out to Black Courton at Cheltenham in November, in the November meeting. I was there. But I thought he was rallying to the cause at the last, and then they made another mistake. He'd made an indifferent round of jumping, and again showed an indifferent round of jumping around Kempton at Christmas, when again was beaten by Black Courton. But he's since gone to Wetherby and won the Cheltenham Novice Chase, and that was much more like him. He'll be better on better ground. I do think a race like this, he's got the potential to run a big one. Apart from that, I'm not particularly convinced by almost anyone else. Like, am I the only one that thinks Finian's Oscar should be running in the 3 mile race? I don't know, but it seems he's going to run in the JLT. God knows why. Should be running in the 3 mile novice chase. What were they doing putting him back over hurdles? The horse just wants 3 miles over fences. He's a slow jumper, but that could be helped at 3 miles. Like, I just don't get it. Yanworth's not going to run. He's going for the Stayers hurdle, as was confirmed this week. So for me, Monalee, it would be one of my bigger bets of the festival. I think Monalee is going to win the RSA, and I like Ballyoptic each way at around 20 to 1. And then we move on to what potentially, if all turn up, is the race of the meeting. There's the Queen Mother Champion Chase. You have Altior, you have Min, you have Duval. It is heaven for 2 mile chasers. It really is. I don't know whether we'll see all three. I think we'll certainly see two. I think we'll certainly see Altior. I think we're pretty much certainly going to see Min. Douvan is a bit of the fly in the ointment because Douvan's so good. He's so good, but is he going to be back? I don't know. Are they going to actually run him against Altior where he potentially could get beat on reappearance? Because he's got every chance of getting beat because Altior's such a cracking horse. I think it's between the three of them, if I'm being honest. Like, So's not going to run. Like, Politolog, if we were running in a dodging bullets year, Politolog could win the Queen Mother, but we're not. We're running in an above average year. Fox Norton won't run. York Hill, let's hope he's running in the Ryanair. Great Field could run, I suppose, but again, he's a bit like Douvan. We haven't seen him since Punchestown last year. He's a bit of a bonker horse. I highly doubt he'll come. Special Tiara's got another good chance from the front at 16-1. But coming back, I think it's a three-runner race, I must say. Special Tiara is going to bomb out in front, but I think he'll only serve as a pacemaker, if I'm being perfectly honest. I don't know. Well, my head tells me Altior will win and will probably beat them silly. But that being said, I can't get away from how good both Min and Douvan are and how they're not favourites for a race. I think a lot depends on whether Douvan comes or not, and it depends what the jockey bookings as well. Like, if Douvan turns up and Ruby Walsh is on him, and they put Paul Townend or whoever is the second jockey, because I know Paul Townend's injured now at the moment. But if they put him on Min, like, they obviously think Douvan's got a really good chance, because you need to have a really good chance if you were thinking that he's a better chance than Min. So that'll be very interesting. On the basis that Douvan turns up, I think 9-2 is value. Obviously, but he won't be 9-2 if he turns up. If he turns up, Altior will be probably similar enough to what he is now, 8-11. Douvan will be probably 2-1, and I think Min will end up being the third favourite, which is a frightening prospect, Min being third favourite in a race. But anyway, I'm going to put my head on the mast and say if Douvan turns up, Douvan will win the Queen Mother Champion Chase, and if Douvan doesn't turn up, I think Altior will beat Min. So, there you have it. Douvan, I'm his biggest fan. Then, moving on to the cross-country, we've got a pretty hot favourite here in Cause of Causes at 11-4. Well, hot favourite for a cross-country race. I'm not sure about Cause of Causes. It's a very difficult horse to get a handle on, because he usually seems to be primed for at most 2 races, but usually just 1 race a year. And I don't actually think it's going to be at the festival this year. I think he's going to be primed for the National, of which I think he could have a good shout. Therefore, I'm just, on that slight risk, I'm going to oppose, I think. But that being said, I think Josie's Orders and Auvergnat, who are second and third in the market for Endo Bulger, they'll both be primed for the race. They love running over the banks. I don't think either of them stay well enough. Certainly Auvergnat. I don't think he properly stays. Josie's Orders has been outstayed in the past, and his other runner, Cantlow, he's around 20 at this stage. At this stage, Kingswell Theatre isn't going to run, which leaves me actually down with the other 2 Elliott horses, which is Tiger Roll and Bless the Wings. Bless the Wings seems to be a thoroughly underrated horse in my eyes. Second in this race last year, run a blinder. And then second in the Irish National, the run after to Arju. That's bloody good form, even though he was beaten 14 lengths. And at 10-1 here, I think he'll run in the race, he'll stay all day, he likes the obstacles. What's not to like at 10-1 each way? Tiger Roll is a bit more like a Cause of Causes character, a bit quirky. Won the 4-mile Novice Chase at the meeting last year. Has previously won the Triumph Hurdle. I don't think any other horse, surely, has won the Triumph Hurdle and then the 4-mile Novice Chase. But anyway, that's another story. He's a quirky horse. Whether he'll be back to form at Cheltenham, he probably will, and therefore 7-1 mightn't be a bad shout. But Cause of Causes, I'm not sure which race he's getting actually plotted for, and therefore I'm willing to oppose at 11-4 for the other 2 Gordon Elliott battalion of Tiger Roll at 7s and Bless the Wing at 10-1. And that moves on to our final race of the Wednesday card, which is the Champion Bumper. Who knows? Who knows? Like, the Champion Bumper is a terrible race to try and pick out. I tipped up last year on my blog, guys. I said Fiona each way. He had a good chance. Fiona ended up winning. But it's really, you're picking names out of the hat. Like, usually I end up siding for the English, or for the Irish horses, because I know them better. I know the form a little better. But even then, I don't think, at the top of the market, we've 3 co-favourites here. We've Black Bow, who won the Grade 2 bumper at the Dublin Racing Festival. He's at 6-1. Then we have the prime English horse, seemingly Did They Leave You Out 2 for Nick Gifford, who's 2 from 2. Holographic for Willie Mullins at 6-1. And then we've Rhinestone for Joseph O'Brien at 7. AC Milan at 8. And at this one, I think I'm going to oppose Black Bow. I'm not sure, I don't particularly know the statistics, but I doubt many winning pointers have won the Champion Bumper. It's usually a speedily enough run race, and I don't know whether Black Bow has the tactical speed for a race of this nature. And therefore, I'd actually be siding more so with the other Willie Mullins horse, Holographic, who looks more of a Champion Bumper type, because he looks along the lines of being more of a 2-mile hurdling type. As for Black Bow, I think is a 2.5, 3-mile chaser in the making. So Holographic, he's got fantastic form in the book, was second in a Punchestown bumper on debut to Vision Day Flow, who I've already tipped up for the Neptune, so I might as well keep the form lines going. And then returned in Punchestown in December and won by 13 lengths. He looked really, really good that day. And before Leopardstown, they did say he was their best bumper horse. Black Bow could have shaken that up a little bit, but I don't think enough. I think they think Holographic's got a really good chance there. And I think it could have been tactical that they didn't run him in that Dublin race. I think they want him there fresh and ready. And a price, I've just got one other price at the moment, because as I say, it's a very difficult race, and you can look through all of these. Like, all of them have won one race or won 2 races. Like, you're kind of going, like, for goodness sakes, what am I to do here? But I think the only one I'd perhaps suggested a price is Downtown Getaway at 16-1. He's only won once in a bumper, won at Punchestown again, I think. No, sorry, Fairyhouse at 14-1 for Mags Mullins, owned at the time by Mags Mullins and John Magnier. But then has subsequently been sold for, I think, 350 grand at a Cheltenham sale, and now I think is in the care of Nicky Henderson, although they haven't updated that on the Racing Post app. But I think he's in the care of Nicky Henderson now. I think he's got a very good chance. He won so well that day at 16-1, and if I'm being honest, I think he could run a massive race. You see what Mags Mullins did last year with Debouché. Obviously, Debouché was still in her care by the time of the Champion Bumper. But this could be a similar type horse. Could be similarly good. And Debouché ran a fantastic race to come second last year. And this guy could do also. So it would be Holographic and perhaps Downtown Getaway at 16-1 each way for the new Nicky Henderson recruit. So that concludes the Wednesday card. I've tried to mix it up a bit. I'm also trying my best to not be too Irish biased, because I know it's very tempting, because I know the form in Ireland that's a little bit better. But I've thrown in a few nice English each way shouts there. So hopefully they can do the business. I think there's a few nice enough prices there when you look at it slightly anti-post. Like, these are horses that won't be 20-1 or 16-1 come post time if you know they're running. So perhaps they're worth, at non-runner no bet, of putting on a few euro each way, perhaps. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did so, like and subscribe perhaps to the channel if you want to see the remaining 2 videos of the Cheltenham Festival, plus a handicap one actually after that. And comment below if you have any thoughts, any tips you've put up yourself. I'd be pleased to have a look and get into a bit of a debate. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Happy punting.